Hi, everyone, and welcome to this Microsoft Azure workshop. And today we have a session about Microsoft Azure Framework. So how is it safe and robust enough? We have, for technical reasons, had to pre-record the workshop, but our experts, Jason and Francois, are here. We will do a Q&A at the end of the video that we'll project now. So have a great workshop, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this NoviPro online workshop. My name is Victoria Donayer. I am a marketing communications coordinator at NoviPro, and today we will be discussing about cloud security, backup, and disaster recovery with two NoviPro experts, Jason Zondag and François Dosage. You may know it from experience in your company, but designing a cloud framework can be a daunting task. Many variables need to be considered to have a secure cloud, and moreover, business continuity plans are a key element for every company. In the event of a system breakdown, this will help you stay afloat and continue business as normal as possible while trying to solve the problem at hand. Today, I am joined with François Dosage, Infrastructure Solution Designer at NoviPro, and Jason Zondag, Senior System Administrator at NoviPro. The two experts will work in the virtualization, infrastructure, and cloud team in our delivery department. So this is the perfect duo to talk about today's subject. So for those who have not attended a NoviPro webinar before, let me speak about our company. For 30 years, NoviPro has been committed to develop solutions meeting your needs and business objectives while staying ahead of the curve. We have a team of more than 130 qualified professionals, in-house consulting services, and our experts are available every step of the way to help you with your modernization projects. Furthermore, we are a Microsoft Gold partner with many Microsoft Azure specialists ready to meet all your cloud computing needs. We offer professional services in many areas. For example, we have business solutions like consulting, analytics, ERP, etc. We also have cloud services with our cloud solutions, integration as well as migration, and managed services, and also in security with our managed services, as well as the integration and deployment part. Today's workshop will go as follows. So first of all, we will speak about tenets of cloud philosophy in NoviPro. What are the 5 pillars NoviPro considers in all of its projects? We will also speak about the Azure well-architected framework and its review tool, which can help you pinpoint areas you need to look into more. We also will talk about NoviPro's methodology, which is the most important part of this workshop today, because with many years of experience and many years of delivering projects, NoviPro has developed a specific methodology which guarantees resilience, security, cost optimization, operational excellence, and performance efficiency. Our business continuity plans will have you up and running in just a few minutes, which is really great. Eventually, we will go over a migration case study in which Jason and Francois helped a client migrate to Azure. So Jason, what is an Azure well-architected framework?
An Azure well-architected framework is a framework that relies on 5 pillars: reliability, security, cost optimization, operational excellence, and performance efficiency. And each one of these pillars integrates with each other pillar to provide a seamless and resilient environment for your cloud applications.
I believe there is a framework that has an excellent resource to help you review your concept and designs. Is that correct?
So as a demonstration of an Azure well-architected review, we're going to post the link. So the link will be posted below. And this is an excellent location, or sorry, This is an excellent resource to go review your concepts and design ideas. This will ask all of the pertinent questions to give you an output that you can now turn into a reality. So you're taking a concept of a cloud design, you have an application you want to deliver, you have a server that you want to host, and will then show you all of the considerations that you need to make in order to ensure that you meet the 5 pillars of the Azure Well Architected. So this is an Azure Well Architected review. This is a website that you can access, and it basically walks you through whatever it is that you're trying to design so that it gives you best-in-class recommendations as to how to accomplish your goals.
So in the table of contents, I was speaking of 5 pillars that NoviPro considers in all of its projects. What are they, Jason?
So at NoviPro, when we review these tenants, we look at reliability by using scale sets, load balancers, comprehensive backup strategies, and to ensure systems are resilient to either a high capacity load or disasters. So in other words, being able to scale up and scale down depending on the need, and also the ability to ensure business continuity by having a backup system that has a very low RTO, RPO output. So if you go down, you're back up and running within minutes often.
How do you make sure an Azure framework is secure, and how does it reflect NoviPro's 5 pillars?
So at NoviPro, security is a big component of everything that we do, and we review on a regular basis. In Azure, we utilize private endpoint security in order to ensure that the data is transferred securely and quickly. And we have our own model for doing that. The security then prevents bad actors from accessing data where you don't want them to, prevents exploits from the outside world, essentially making sure that you don't have any downtime based on people with poor intentions. Cost optimization, some of the solutions can be quite expensive, so we often will review the costing of what you're doing in order to make sure that you have good reservations and that you're right-sized your VMs in order to make sure that you're not paying too much or not paying enough, so that essentially you get the right performance for the right cost, which leads into the operational excellence. So we document everything that we do so that at any point we can go back and deconstruct and reconstruct anything that needs to be done. And we also use the same models and standardization to ensure that the product that is delivered is consistent and reliable, which brings us to the performance efficiency. All of our solutions are designed to be both secure and scalable in order to ensure that your business needs today will be met tomorrow.
Now our Azure is secure, but we also need a business continuity plan containing DR. So how do you build a disaster recovery solution?
Really, the objective behind site recovery is to provide a full solution for disaster recovery scenarios, and we're talking about scenarios where an entire Azure data center goes down, a region is not available. This would then allow you to transfer over to a new region and keep going. Really, what you would want Azure Site Recovery for is the business continuity aspect. So people that would be looking for that SLA, you know, that 99.9999 plus uptime SLA. And Azure Site Recovery is one of those services that can provide that if set up properly. The actual default synchronization period is 5 minutes. So Microsoft tells you they can do an RTO of 5 minutes, which is pretty impressive in terms of ensuring business continuity. So this is really targeted to those high-end customers who have those needs. And when we set it up, there's extras we can do to make it a lot more secure. So the underlying technology, if you will, behind ASR is it's basically doing a disk replication of all your VMs, all your databases, whatever you set up in ASR. It does a live replication of the data over in another data center. And with the flip of a switch, you're able to go there and basically come back up. The default way of doing it by Microsoft involves going to public internet. Data is encrypted in transmission, so it's relatively secure, but we believe that there's a better way of doing it, and Microsoft does provide tools that allows you to do it a little bit better and a little bit more secure. So what we like to do here at NoviPro is we like to leverage what's called private endpoint and private endpoint security. What that does for you is you can essentially set up directly on a service. In this case, in Azure Site Recovery or Azure Backup, you can set up what's called a private endpoint or a service endpoint. And once you attach that to the service, it actually gives it a local IP address. And the advantage of that is you can now reach those services without going over the public internet. You would simply reach them by going locally to your local IP address that was generated by the service. There's lots of things you can do with it. You can tie these private endpoints to web apps, to your app plans. You can also tie them to your key vaults, your app configuration secrets. You can do as well manage and settle on Azure SQL for private endpoints. So it's really something we will leverage as much as possible and more. And it's also something that Microsoft is adding more and more services to their offering in terms of private endpoint security. In this case, the way we've had it set up is for Azure Site Recovery. And I'm going to show you a little Visio diagram here, which has a lot of information on it, but we're going to break that down and see if we can figure it out. So in this Visio diagram, there's lots of lines, but let's just start with the basics here. We have this virtual machine that we would like to have, that is currently located in this Azure Region 1, that we would like to do a disaster recovery all the way to this region here. Now you'll notice that I didn't have another virtual machine here. And the reason for that is it's not a live virtual machine. It is a live replicated disk and configuration information, but it does require you to flip a switch so that it actually generates a VM on the other side and you can use it. That way you don't pay for the cost for a running VM, you only pay for basically the capacity. And Microsoft does offer capacity reservations as well, but that's beyond the scope of this demonstration at this point. So in a traditional scenario, you would go to the virtual machine or to a group of virtual machine, and you would go to the Azure Site Recovery, and you would basically select your source target region and enable Azure Site Recovery, and off it goes. It does its own thing, and it will work. It'll do the site recovery. However, as you can see in this diagram, when we start looking at private endpoints, it starts getting a little bit more complex, because the idea here is, in order to get this data over to this region without going over the public internet, you have to route through the backbone, which is the Azure network, or the Microsoft network. And I talked earlier about assigning private endpoints and private IP addresses. Well, you're going to have to do that on all your services. So to operate Azure Site Recovery correctly, you need to then set up a private endpoint on a cache storage account, which is where it spools the data first. And you also need to set it on the other end on the recovery services vault so that it receives the final data. So the flow of data from ASR is actually, it goes from a virtual machine, spools the data to this cache storage account, which then pushes the data across to the other end. Now, because we're not going over a public internet, we have to provide some sort of networking. And we're going to do that through either a VNet peering or a VPN tunnel, depending on what your organization needs. Once we have those two in place, then we can assign the private endpoints and all the permissions that are needed on the cache storage account and the recovery services vault. And then in this method, when you now do ASR, it will not go over the public internet, it'll go over that link. Now you might be thinking, well, hang on, usually for that to work, you need some sort of a DNS, right? Well, you're correct. So in order to be reachable to those local IP addresses, you need to create two zones. First zone is what's called private-link.blob.core.windows.net. The public version of that is simply blob.core.windows.net. Generally, when you create a storage account, it always gets assigned a public DNS name, whether you want it or not. It just happens. It's something that Azure does for you. And if you don't want it to be reachable via the web, you have to disable public access. So if you disable public access without setting up private endpoints, you will effectively break ASR. So you've got to do this first. And once those private endpoints are set up, we can then tell the system using DNS, hey, you can reach those services if you go through this private link DNS zone. Now, this is for the storage account. We also need a private DNS zone for the recovery services vault. And that one is privatelink.siterecovery.windowsazure.com. And it will assign those DNS entries to the resources that are for the service recovery vaults. Once all of that is set up, you can get a reliable and secure transmission of data for your ASR backups and your ASR site recoveries. And the really nice thing that was a bonus to us was it was actually quite a bit faster because it doesn't go over the public internet. It goes over the Azure backbone. And those data centers are very much interconnected with very high-speed links. So we found that backups and site recoveries took a lot less time. You will be paying a little bit more for ingress and egress because you're going over private links and, either over a VPN tunnel or a VNet peering. But we feel like the amount of egress and egress data, depending on the size of your company, is very little compared to the benefits of speed and security that you would gain from this. And this is basically our standard. We try to implement this with every service we have because we feel this is the most secure way. It's complex, but that's why we're here.
Now that we've seen how to use Azure well-architected framework, NoviPro's 5 pillars into designing an Azure framework, and the DR solution NoviPro uses, let's see how it translates into a case study. François, you were telling me this was a challenging process, right?
So this particular customer had a quite complex environment, and well, our goal was to shift them from one cloud provider to another. And we had lots of elements to take into account, including quite a few public facing web applications. They had a really advanced network design separated with zones and VLANs, which we had to basically adapt to Azure because Azure networking does not support VLANs. They also had a couple of internal Active Directory domains, which we ended up having to merge together. They had a big requirement for dev because they do a lot of dev for web and SQL. They had a lot of SQL servers, production, pre-production, development. They run lots of very big, large databases that handle lots of IOPS, and it was actually an exercise to find the right sizing for them because we had to find a trade-off between cost and what they actually needed in terms of performance. And we actually went with what's called a CPU constrained VM in Azure, which basically allows you to just have more memory and not necessarily CPU, because sometimes when you're running SQL applications, you need more memory than you need CPU.
So it was a challenge, but how exactly did you overcome it?
In the initial analysis, we utilized the Azure migration tool to determine the viability of moving servers from a third-party hosting to Azure, which also does an analysis on setting up this right sizing and determining what dependencies these VMs may have for network and for cloud services. And by doing this, we were able to design an Azure landing zone and breaking out all of the components into a more future-ready environment for this client, which would allow them to scale up or scale down as needed giving them the resiliency and the security that they require. In the end, we did actually only lift and shifted a few of their more legacy applications that could not be easily migrated into a current operating system. But for the rest of the systems, they were all replaced with brand new ones, sized right for the time, also set up reservations, and by doing so met the 5 pillars by securing the environment with private endpoints, setting up a very extremely low RTO, RPO, so for business continuity to keep everything running quickly and in the event of a massive failure, still being able to have their environment up and running without really loss of business. We then also hit the target of costing by applying numerous reservations on things like storage and VMs, thereby reducing their capital expenditure significantly on a year-over-year basis. And we documented, for starting right from the beginning as a NoviPro practice, we documented right from the word go, so that at the end of the project, we had a complete blueprint of everything that was built that we could convert to the client as needed and be able to deconstruct or reconstruct as needed.
But there was one more challenge in this case study, right, Francois? How did you tackle this?
So one of the things we ended up having to do for them is doing a lot of cross-tenant sync, cross-tenant peering as well. And by the end of this project, they were having it so that all they had to do was put users in a group, and it would get automatically synced over to the other place and inherit the correct permissions. And it made it very simple, very seamless. Users could just switch tenants back and forth from one single point. And you know, it makes handling this management portion a lot easier for them. This was quite a challenging project for us, but we felt like that was a good one, and we made a lot of strides in terms of what we were able to do in terms of technical abilities, and we believe that this was a successful project, and we now have a very good blueprint moving forward to do these kinds of things, and in a very controlled and accurate fashion.
Okay, but did you only use Microsoft solutions? And did you respect the Azure framework to help this client?
Yes, so to build on what Jason was mentioning, more specifically for this Azure lift and shift project that we did, we implemented a combination of Microsoft and third-party hardware and software solutions to build our final environment. While there were Microsoft services available to make it 100% Microsoft, we felt that some of those solutions are not one size fits all, and they don't always match up to what the customer really needs. So we have the ability to fill in the gaps with our expertise by using third-party solutions. And in this case, it really worked out because what we ended up doing is we implemented a third-party firewall, a high availability pair, and a WAF solution as well. And it was really, you know, you want to look at it as an ROI kind of perspective, return on investment. How much does my dollar go? And we felt that it went a lot better and a lot farther using those third-party solutions versus using the built-in Microsoft solutions, which are great, but may not have all the features, or, you know, in order to get those features, you might have to shell out a lot of money. And in our case, we just saw better value by combining those two, and it works pretty well. Nevertheless, we still respected the well-architected framework by segmenting using Hub and Spoke. We simply went the route of expanding our horizon and having more than one option than just Microsoft. So in this case study, we really went with everything that we had expertise in order to deliver a full-fledged solution, and it came together really well in the end.
and that was our workshop. I hope you find it interesting. We'll be moving on to the sorry. We will be moving on to the Q&A soon. We just have a few things to mention before going forward with the Q&A. So as you may have seen, we have used several tools in order to have a framework that is robust enough. So there's endpoint protection, endpoint security. We also have hub and spoke that we use as a model. We also have DR. Just to so you know, if you felt lost anytime during the workshop, we are here to help you. We are a SOC 2 Type 2 managed service provider. You can contact us at any time. We are also monitoring and alerting you if you decide to go forward with the managed services. So we are really here to help you in your process to make your cloud more secure. And also now we'll be moving on to the Q&A section. So Jason and Francois, you can join us now. Okay, so hello. Maybe you can turn your camera on, please. I will be looking for the questions. There are some in the chat, so make sure to ask your questions in the Q&A section for those attending so that we can answer them.
I'd love to start my video, but it says you can't start the video because the host stopped it.
You can start your camera now. All right. So here we have a question that says, you mentioned that you use a mix of Microsoft Azure and third-party solutions. So why not go full Microsoft?
Yes, so this is always an interesting subject of conversation that comes up quite often when dealing with Azure. We have in the past, we've done projects where we've gone full Microsoft and it's worked out as well. But every project is different and has different needs. So while the solutions and the service stack that Microsoft offers is really impressive and keeps growing, well, as subject matter experts, we really try to remain vendor and technology agnostic as much as possible to be able to find the right combo for our customers' successes. We feel like no offering is ever one size fits all, and we will try to be mindful of budget and constraints along the way. And yeah, that's pretty much that.
I hope this was informative for the person. All right, we have another question here. So how long does it take to go through the Azure Well Architected form? Maybe Jason, you want to answer to this question?
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's a web form that you have to fill out, and it asks a whole lot of questions. Depending on what you're looking to do, it's anywhere between 30 to 60 minutes. It's very involved.
And so it provides at the end some points you need to look into for your cloud security, correct?
Yeah, everything is detailed out. So as you drill down into your questions and the responses, links are provided as well so that you can do for additional reading to ensure that the solution that ends up being proposed is the right fit.
Okay, I see another question. So this person that is not yet to Azure, but they are asking what is the process for doing an analysis to move to Azure? So how would it work?
Well, the simplest method is to build a server on site that is equipped with the Azure migration tools. And then from that, we can develop a project that then does the full analysis, and all of the information is published to the Azure framework so that we can easily then flip the switch and start migrating servers. Once the dependencies are met, then we've discovered that these servers are going to be migrated.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. And so this project server that you create is then used not just for the analysis, but also you then used for the migration itself. And once the migration is started, it is
basically a synchronization of those servers. So when you do decide to flip the switch and go live, it's done in very quickly. Within a couple of hours, you're up and running in Azure with all of your servers.
All right. And last question I see in the chat. How does NoviPro ensure its customer remains secure once they're in the cloud?
So for that one, well, that was mentioned a little bit earlier, but I'll just, reiterate it here. It's basically that NoviPro, we do take a security centric approach for all of our customers and our projects. And we were pretty much bolstered by a service department that is SOC 2 Type 2 accredited. And we offer a full range of security offerings and expertise that encompass, but is not limited to firewall, web application firewall, CI/CD pipeline hardenings, advanced CDR endpoint protection, 24/7 monitoring and alerting, auditing, and major incidents response, and more. So yeah, we set up like a whole range of tools and a whole range of monitoring to ensure that you are secure, and if there's any problems, we're right there to react and respond.
Perfect. I'm just looking if there are any more questions in the chat. Nope. Okay, so if you have more questions, we will send you an email with our sales representative's name so that you can ask your question if you have more questions. Thank you for attending this webinar. I hope you find it instructive, and we hope to see you next time. Bye, everyone.